Previously, on Mass Effect 3, we bedded Steve Cortez. Today, we're going to look at the Mass Effect setting.
Shepard, I got Anderson patched in. I was just getting him up to speed.
Udina? That SOB was always power-hungry. But this?
He wasn't in charge. Cerberus was just using him to take control of the Citadel.
I love these little meetings between Hackett, Anderson and Shepard. At first, Anderson and Hackett were just giving Shepard orders, telling us what to do. They kind of do so here when Hackett sends us off to get the aid of the Quarian flotilla. But every once in a while, the chain of command slips a little. It'll be most obvious next update, when Shepard and Hackett debrief after an encounter with Cerberus. Shepard will say that they're sending some scientists Hackett's way, and Hackett will say, yes, he's read the dossier. And Shepard will tell Hackett, make sure you take care of them. I mean, the relationship between Shepard and their superiors has always been very hands-off, to account for player freedom in resolving quests. But this, I think, is slightly different, and it'll only develop more once we move towards the endgame. The impression I get is that these three people are the joint leaders of the Alliance war effort against the Reapers. These conference calls don't have the feeling of a superior delegating tasks to a subordinate, but a team working together in tandem. Shepard's mission to run around solving big galactic problems is fully equal to the Crucible or the war on Earth in defeating the Reapers.
To understanding how to use it.
That's still open for debate. Utilized in the right fashion, our scientists are convinced it can generate enough energy to destroy the Reapers. The question is, how will it dispense the energy, and in what form?
You mean, how do you stop it from wiping us all out?
Exactly. We think the catalyst is the key to determining how to focus its energy, how to direct its energy at the Reapers alone.
I'm working on that.
You'll find the answers, Shepard. I'll send you an update on the schematics. And in the meantime, we'll keep building.
And we'll keep fighting. Make sure there's an Earth left to come back to.
You've always trusted me. I won't let you down.
We're still in this. The gods of war haven't given up on us yet.
Good luck, both of you. Anderson out.
Commander, the Turian fleet is stretched thin. We need more support ships. And the Quarians are willing to talk.
Understood, sir. I'll look into it.
Be careful. We've got reports of instability along the Geth border. Hack it out.
Shepard, I know this may not be the time, but I have something. A contact within Asari High Command was insistent I pass on a distress signal to you.
Something they can't handle?
From what I can tell, they sent several commando squads to investigate. None of them returned. They didn't ask me directly, but I think High Command is hoping you might help.
What's your take on this?
That they wouldn't ask for help if it wasn't important. I'll have to find more information.
Are you okay, Liara?
Not after what we went through on the Citadel. Maybe we should talk about it later.
Dig up any information on the mission, Liara?
I did, and I now understand why High Command wanted to hide it. We're headed to an ardat-yakshi monastery.
What's an ardat-yakshi?
So this mission is Samara's spotlight mission, and like Samara, it's all about the Asari. The Asari as a species have this very unfortunate responsibility of being representatives for an entire gender. When designing the original Mass Effect, BioWare felt unable to produce both male and female versions of every species. To address this inequality, they decided to make one of the species, the Asari, present entirely as female. It's only Mass Effect 3 that we start to see some female representatives of the other species, the Krogan and Salarians, and later a Turian in the Omega DLC. Now, okay, Tali in Mass Effect 1 is female, and the Asari are supposed to be a deliberate nod to the green-skinned space babes of the original series of Star Trek. But it does mean the Asari bear the burden of representing women in Mass Effect, which leads to some unfortunate places, like the Asari being the diplomatic, empathetic peacemaker race, or the Asari being one of only two races, the other being the Krogan, to really have anything to do with sex in Mass Effect. And of course, while the Krogan are all about sex as procreation, the Asari treat sex as more of a sensual, social bonding, pleasure-giving act. Or how the Asari are written to have an entire psychocultural stage in their lives in which they're expected to be adventurous warrior women strippers before growing up, settling down and having children. Lots of awful, awful conclusions you can draw from all of that.
That sound. There's more than one out there.
I hear something.
Stay sharp. I heard something.
That was my fault, sorry.
But one of the big ones, and the one I'd like to highlight today, is to do with the ardat-yakshi. Now I can't claim any credit for this, though I wish I could, so I'm going to thank Strifehera and Arglebargle III for mentioning this earlier in the thread. To recap, Samara's character in Mass Effect 2 was centered around her quest to hunt down her daughter Morinth. Morinth was an ardat-yakshi, an Asari with a mutation that causes them to kill the people they have sex with. Eventually, Shepard and Samara track Morinth down to a sleazy Omega nightclub and murder her. I think BioWare intended it simply to be another echo to the parent-child conflict, a version of Titanomachy where Cronus is justified and successful in killing his offspring. The unfortunate subtext of the situation, though, is that Morinth is an evil, predatory lesbian who murders her lovers with a futuristic form of AIDS. And when you say it out loud, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Morinth's victim is specifically a young girl who expresses confusion that she could be attracted to someone like Morinth. Morinth herself is a bohemian who wears all black, drifts from place to place, and spends her time in nightclubs listening to obscure music and attending avant-garde art exhibitions. She's a caricature of the predatory homosexual, the cartoon boogeyman that justified the criminal right-wing neglect of the AIDS medical crisis in the 1980s.
Very good. I almost didn't hear you.
Samara?
It has been some time, Shepard. You are a most welcome sight. The corruption here runs deep. I assume you're here on your own, Justicar. Perhaps for something special? You are correct. 2 of my daughters live here, and I have come for them. Unfortunately, the Reapers had already infested this place by the time I arrived.
Are your daughters ardat-yakshi?
Yes. Falere and Rila have lived here since they were very young.
And you're here to save them?
They are my responsibility. And it's one that cannot be abandoned, even as our galaxy crumbles.
Find your daughters fast. I'm setting off a bomb the commandos brought here.
The Justicar Code demands I discover what happened to my children in this monastery. I cannot ignore it. We're out of time. We'll meet again. I will draw these creatures off.
Wait! Let's go.
Now, I don't really think BioWare is homophobic. Regardless of what I personally think of romances, I think they've made some good faith efforts to be inclusive of LGBT players in the content that they've written. David Gader has spoken about the subject at games developer conferences and events, and that's to be applauded. However, I suspect that the Dragon Age half of BioWare is probably a bit more clued up on these issues than the Mass Effect team. Maybe it's a long-term consequence of the controversy stirred up by the conservative activist Jack Thompson, but BioWare's been a bit weaselly about how they present Liara's relationship with a female Shepard, and the Asari relationships in general. They say the Asari are monogendered that present as female, rather than a species of women, which is what they rather obviously are. Back when Mass Effect 2 was announced, people asked why there weren't any same-sex relationships in the core game, and one of BioWare's responses was that homosexual romances weren't PG-13. The other was that Shepard wasn't written by BioWare to be gay. Now that's from some time ago, and obviously BioWare or society have changed their minds since then. But none of that really changes the fact that there are, again, some awful connotations to the way that the ardat-yakshi are written. Which is a shame. Not just for its own sake, though that is far more important and relevant than anything I'll say next, but because it overshadows what I think BioWare was trying to illustrate with the ardat-yakshi. In a previous video, I suggested that Mass Effect is the paragon game, that with the original Mass Effect, BioWare drew a lot from sci-fi like the original Star Trek to create a clean, polished, optimistic future setting. I also suggested that Mass Effect 2 was written to be the renegade game, dirtier, grittier, darker, drawing more from dystopian or more pessimistic sci-fi like Blade Runner. In a sense, Mass Effect 1 sets up the universe, and Mass Effect 2 knocks it all down. The Citadel Council changes from the ultimate arbiter of political and moral authority to an obstructionist bureaucracy more focused on maintaining the status quo than addressing real problems. Council space is full of shiny buildings and gleaming colonies, but the Terminus systems are a warren of pirates, mercenaries and criminal scum. And the Asari, the oldest, friendliest, most advanced race, are revealed to have a dirty little secret, an embarrassment that suggests they are not all that they seem, namely the ardat-yakshi. Morinth, alongside Ilium the libertarian hellhole and Aria the crime lord, are intended to bring the Asari down a peg or two as part of a concerted effort by BioWare to reveal the ugliness inherent to the Mass Effect setting.
Shepard, this is Falere, my youngest. She and her sister Rila are ardat-yakshi. They have
Mother, they have Rila.
What?
I saw some of those creatures take her into the Great Hall. I've been trying to get there.
What are the Reapers doing here?
Harvesting us. They're turning us into those monsters. Please, you can't let that happen to Rila.
There's a bomb in the Great Hall. We're setting it off, so find your sister quickly.
Bomb? But I thought you came to rescue us.
I'm here because this place is a liability.
A liability? My friends have been killed. Turned into...
Falere, we did not come to argue.
No, you came to destroy us.
Falere!
Earlier in the thread, a couple of people suggested that Mass Effect is fascist. Now, I kind of disagree, but we should probably unpack this a little first. It's very easy to say a lot of stories are fascist because fascism draws a lot from heroic narratives. The ideology of fascism casts the whole world as a kind of heroic story, in which the fascists are, of course, the protagonists, out to save the world from the corruption of an insidious other, Bolshevism, liberals, international Jewry, whatever. Culturally, fascism alternates between glorifying the past and triumphing in the technology of the new. There's also tons of military worship and the strengths of direct action over effete intellectualism and diplomacy. So obviously, a game like Mass Effect, which stars a military officer out to save the galaxy from extragalactic robots using futuristic lasers and the knowledge of the ancient Protheans by shooting the ever-loving shit out of everyone in their way, is going to have a lot of fodder for analysis as a fascist tract. You can highlight the treatment of the Council and Udina as examples of this fascist bent. The Council are derided for being ineffective and willfully blind to the Reaper menace until too late. They are redeemed only when they start listening to Shepard and contributing to the Crucible. Udina's betrayal of the Council, presumably so he could direct Council aid to Earth, is very similar to the myth of the stab in the back from interwar Germany. The Solarian Dalatress we met was ruthless and underhanded, while when we meet the Quarian Admiralty shortly, we'll see them to be selfish warmongers. These corrupt or incompetent politicians then form a foil to Commander Shepard, the soldier covered in glory who saves the galaxy from the Reapers 3 times over. This is not to say that BioWare are fascists, or that the players are fascist, or that it even endorses fascism. It's just one of those readings that you can have. It's something to think about. But I don't think Mass Effect is fascist. Again, in a previous video I organised the Mass Effect 2 companions into 4 categories. Mordin and Grunt lay the ground for the Genophage arc. Tali and Legion do the same for the Quarian arc. Miranda, Jacob and Jack set up the Cerberus subplot. These 3 are the big galactic problems that get sorted in Mass Effect 3. Their resolution enables the resolution of the Reaper War and the conflict that drives the madness of Cronus. However, this still leaves Garrus, Thane, Kasumi, Zaid and Samara out in the cold. What these 5 characters illustrate is the general corruption of the Mass Effect universe. Thane, Kasumi and Zaid are all criminals. Garrus walks the line between order and disorder as a renegade cop that preys on criminals. Samara, as discussed, exposes the Asari as not being the perfect angels they pretend to be. All of these characters, along with Mass Effect 2's settings and mission plots, reveal the Mass Effect universe to be quite different from the utopia implied in the original. Although, then again, that's not really accurate, is it? I think Mass Effect 1 being this wholly upbeat and optimistic future isn't quite true. Remember that the Council is essentially a bully pulpit for the biggest galactic powers, from which they can browbeat and intimidate other races into doing their bidding irrespective of actual right or wrong. The Volus were the 3rd species to reach the Citadel, but because they don't have the military power to impose their will on others, they are snubbed and marginalized, sharing an embassy with the Elcor. Humanity, meanwhile, is promoted to next in line for a council seat because of their potential military and economic strength. We've already covered the Genophage in extensive detail, the result of a series of hasty decisions by the Council. Similarly, the Quarian problem is the result of the Council's stringent laws against AIs, their hardline stance against the initial Quarian transgression, and their continuing discrimination against Quarian travellers. In the past, the argument has been made that this cycle is special, because the Council is such an egalitarian coming together of different species under the banners of democracy and rule of law. This, then, is enough to justify a galactic victory over the Reapers without any real change or transformation. I want to challenge that perspective. The way the Council is written blows open a lot of the myths of liberal democracy. That equality under the law means equality in real life. That institutional power is unselfish and serves the masses, when in reality it is simply less obvious in its selfishness than autocratic power. And while Mass Effect 3 places specific emphasis on the Genophage, the Quarians and Cerberus arcs, these are but particular expressions of this underlying inequality and corruption endemic to the setting. Again, we see the big problems of Mass Effect do not stem from one particular individual. Killing Saren or Harbinger or the Elusive Man doesn't solve these problems. These problems aren't even the result of the machinations of one particular group or organization. It's not the fault of the Reapers, because we solve these problems in order to combat the Reapers. Deposing the Council wouldn't make things better, because we'd probably just end up with another Prothean Empire. Instead, and I've said this before, the big problems of the Mass Effect galaxy are all structural, all point to the inherent patterns of control as causing this misery. And this is the third and final reason, it took me long enough to get here, the third and final reason why I laugh when people say they love the Mass Effect setting. The Mass Effect setting is the antagonist of the series. The Mass Effect setting is what Shepard is intended to defeat, to transform. And this is why I don't think Mass Effect is fascist. Mass Effect ultimately makes a statement that the setting is totally, universally corrupted by the Reapers, or whatever it is the Reapers represent. The madness of Cronus permeates every part of the setting via the Mass Effect relays, so that even the basic technology of the setting reinforces systems of oppression and control. There is no glorious past to return to, because that way lies thousands of cycles of genocide and harvest. The technology of the future holds no salvation, because synthetic life will always annihilate organic life. There is only the imperfect present, which must be transformed and transcended by people like Shepard, like those friends that Shepard has changed for the better along the way. I think it is very telling that the great superweapon we spend the game constructing is not a bomb that we have to sneak onto Harbinger, or a laser ray that we point at the Reaper fleet and fire. The superweapon we spend the game constructing is not called the Sun Crusher or the Planet Killer. It is called the Crucible. It is a means of refining material, purifying it, not destroying it. When I've advanced this argument before, people have protested. They don't see Mass Effect as a dystopia, and they're right, it isn't. Dystopias are immutable. They exist to throw our more noble human qualities into stark relief, but they don't change. Big Brother will never be overthrown. Mass Effect is not like that. The purpose of the games is to change the Mass Effect setting to right these wrongs. The end goal is not to destroy the Reapers, as so many have incorrectly assumed. It is become worthy of surpassing the Reapers, of ending the conflict they represent. Mass Effect is not fascist. It is revolutionary.
Not your slaves.
Okay, so let's get back to Samara. Samara is one of the more moral characters in the game. Like Thane, she doesn't need to be changed much. Her primary character trait is that she lives according to this ancient code of the Asari, and much like the Jedi code of Star Wars or the knightly code of 1,000 chivalric romances, it exists to be tested or broken. In a way, that's what the loyalty mission with Morinth illustrates. Samara's Justicar code is pitted against familial love, and it is familial love that bends and breaks in the end. Now, in Mass Effect 3, we see it again with her good daughters, Rila and Philaire. Only this time, there is no out. Morinth was a monster who hunted and murdered for her own pleasure. Samara had disowned her entirely as a daughter. She was a criminal, not her child. Thus the madness of Cronus was averted, though not the crime. No such luck for Falair. Samara's solution is, again, to bend and break. Only this time it is herself that breaks. There is no excuse or justification save the letter of the code, and that isn't enough. So she shoots herself to spare her daughter. Thus the madness of Cronus is fulfilled. Now, we could have saved Samara. I personally was unsure what path to take, so I opened it up to the thread, and there were some really cool arguments for and against saving her, so thanks to everyone for that. A couple of people have said things similar to the points I made earlier in this video, about how Samara and her code make a statement about Asari culture and the morality of the Mass Effect universe. Others suggested that as Samara is a character written largely to develop the Asari and the ardat-yakshi, then her purpose is finished after this mission, and it's a good time to write her out of the story. I liked both of these lines of thought. I thought they were interesting points. As I said, I am kind of ambivalent on the question. I wouldn't have minded either way, but I'm glad it worked out like this, because we get this line.
You did nothing to cause this, Falair. Samara made her choice.
She shouldn't have had to.
Now, this line really sums up what I was trying to say before. While in Mass Effect 2, Morinth was a clear-cut villain whose death resolves the crisis at hand, in Mass Effect 3 it is not so easy. Rita and Falair do not deserve to die, neither does Samara. Here the problem is not an individual or even a species, but the situation that forces Samara and Falair into conflict, that demands that one of them must die. The problem that Shepard faces is not finding the right person to kill and finding the right way to kill them. The problem that Shepard faces is unpacking and unwinding the galactic situation that creates the conflict in the first place. The problem is neither Cronus nor Zeus. It is not the Reapers. The problem is the prophecy that brings Cronus and Zeus into conflict, the paradigm that gives the Reapers their purpose.
May the ardat-yakshi find rest. What the Reapers did to them was monstrous. I had another team of commandos headed to the monastery who I can now formally transfer to Admiral Hackett's command. They'll serve you loyally, Commander. Farewell.